Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of RPG Horror Stories. Today we're talking about a player who went on a bit of a murder hobo trip and then blamed the DM for ruining his power fantasy. Without further ado, let's get started. 1 year ago, after my friend and I were introduced to D&D with the group's only experienced DM, she invited me to DM a couple sessions since she wanted to play too. I happily agreed and got to work. Drew out a map, wrote some outlines, and even homebrewed a couple enemies, basically just reskinning monster manual monsters with tiny edits. Now, for this campaign, we had added a friend who hadn't played the previous sessions. He chose to be a dragonborn paladin, but wanted to be chaotic evil. Not knowing what a bad idea evil characters in an otherwise neutral and good party was, I agreed, and kind of helped him to make sort of a dark paladin, with loyalty to some horrible aberration of a god. Yeah, first mistake. The rest of the group was level 3 to 4, so I just made him level 3 as well. We'll call him W. We kick it off with them arriving at a town attached to a prominent abbey, which handled pretty much all of the governance for the town. The monk guards took close note of their entry as they were bearing a VIP invite to the villagers' upcoming spring festival. The party's mission is to steal a book from the abbey's maze-like library and get it to their employer, a duke. The 3 other members of the party opt to ask around town for information about the monks and the festival, but W immediately splits off. I let him. Second mistake. W walks right up to the monks at the town chapel and starts asking about the library and their most valuable books, then follows it up by asking to join their religion. They're obviously sketched out and don't let him in. At this point, I can see he's getting frustrated with me. He then decides he needs a safe house of sorts, and that the inn will do. So W decides to break into a house and murder whoever is living there. I try to dissuade him by describing a lovely old couple talking about their grandnephew over tea, but he persists, and again, I guess I let him kill them, figuring it's better if he faces the consequences than shutting him down. That's the third mistake. A few in-game hours later, the murder is noticed and the guards are on high alert. Suspicion obviously falls on the newcomers to town, and W is confronted by 4 guards. Instead of talking, he tries to take on the 4 of them while the rest of the party is elsewhere. He uses his breath weapon, which does a fair amount of damage, but the guards manage to seize him anyway. The other players are a little irked now, since their cover is basically blown, and the guards are searching for them. Now they have to stage a jailbreak, which is at least exciting. W is skulking and huffing and puffing as the party is playing while he is jailed. He's getting snappy with me and the other players. The session ends as the rest of the party successfully break into the monastery to free him, and we run out of time. It's pretty clear right now that nobody liked the session that much, and I'm bummed out. Afterwards, W confronts me. I tell him I can't simply let random killings go without consequence, and he says fine, but accuses me of making the guards too tough. I tell him they were straight from the monster manual and that generally a 4v1 goes poorly. He's still insisting I should have let him mow down some quote-unquote weak town guards. He was breathing thunder! How could he not kill them all? To which I told him, look, if a level 3 rando could just walk into town and mow down guards, there wouldn't be much of a point to having guards at all. This isn't about just living your power fantasy. Besides, you can't just be out here causing mayhem while the rest of the party's trying to engage with the story. It won't work. He responds, that's the entire point of the game. If you were a better DM, you could have me do what I want and still have the story work. At this point, I say, yeah, I guess I'm new, and walk away. I have to give it to him. I was a bad DM, and it was definitely because I let him do things that ruined the experience for others. Needless to say though, W was not invited to D&D again. We restarted the story with the rest of the group, and we ended up having a pretty good time. The small campaign morphed into a long-term campaign which is still ongoing, and I ended up learning a fair bit about problem players and what not to do just from that guy. TLDR, guy murders random NPCs, wants his level 3 character to be able to mow down guards like they're nothing. When I gave him consequences, he gets pissed and called me a bad DM. So, how do you deal with murder hobos? That is the question. But before we get into that part of the analysis, let's talk about the DM himself. One thing that's really admirable about this DM is his self-awareness. His ability to realize what he did wrong means that he's not a bad DM. He's not a good DM. He's one of the best. Your ability to figure out what you did wrong and fix your mistake and learn from it, that is the most important part of not just being a DM, but being anything in life in general. And massive, massive props to OP. Really, really great recovery from something that was really bad. Yeah, sure, you made some mistakes, but learning from them, that makes you an amazing DM. Okay, so the murder hobo himself. How do you deal with murder hobos? Now, this particular kind of player in this story isn't just a murder hobo. He's what some players call an instigator. He's clearly joining this game with the intent to play on his own. He's not interested in playing along with the other players or following the DM's story. These kind of players will inevitably ruin your game, not only for the DM, but for the other players. And the only really way to deal with them is to talk to them about their actions, parent them hard, tell them what they're doing wrong, tell them why it's not okay, and then if they refuse, I'm sorry to say it, but you've got to give them the boot. That kind of instigator is something that will ruin the game for the entire table. That cannot be tolerated. You've got, 2, 3, 4 other players at this table? You can't just let one person ruin the game for all of them. That's not good. You've got to give them the boot if they're not going to listen to criticism. Alright, if you guys enjoyed this episode of RPG Horror Stories, then please do leave a like. If you want to see more content such as this, then please do subscribe to Crispy's Tavern. And if you want to leave any thoughts or stories of your own down below, go to the comments. In essence, like, comment, subscribe. I will see you all next time. Farewell.